Welcome to my channel. So this particular dress I've been all over Instagram. So today I am going to show you how to make it. I am measuring 7.5, which is my shoulder to shoulder divided by 2, and I add ½ inch to it for seam allowance. And I mark 1.25 inch downwards for my shoulder slant. And on that line, I will take 8.5 inch for my armhole. And at the edge I take 3 inch for the slanting of my shoulder and connect the lines. On that line I will be taking my bust measurement divided by 4 and 1.5 for seam allowance. Connect the lines. Now I am trying to mark my bust points. From the top of your shoulder, my bust point is 11.5. Whatever you get as your bust point, you add ½ inch to it. Now this is how you take your under bust. Mine is 14, I would add half to that. Just like my bust point was 11, I added half to it. Now my under bust is 14, I would add half to that, and I connect the lines. Now I am taking 17-inch standard measurement for the waist, shoulder to waist. On there I mark my waist measurement and I add seam to it. Waist measurement divided by 4 and seam. On that line I am taking 9-inch downwards. 9-inch is standard for making a dress. So that is to get your hip measurement. On there I marked my hip divided by 4 and 1.5 for seam. Now I am taking my dress length, and I already added seam to my dress length. Now on there I am going to take my hip measurement and I will mark it there. I will not add any seam and I connect to the hip line. Now I will take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 is 4. Now I will take that measurement all the way down, and once I am done I would use my ruler and connect the lines. I connected the line from my bust point downwards. Now I am just taking 3.5 for the width of my neckline and 3.5 for the length, and I would connect the lines and make your neckline curve. Now just divide your shoulder slant into 2 and connect it to your bust point, just like I am doing. Now I took 2-inch from my hip line upwards, 2-inch upwards. That is going to be where my dart is going to start from. Now I am just labeling everything to avoid confusion, and that is going to be my under bust, and that is going to be my bust point, and that is going to be my bust. Now from that 2-inch I marked upwards, I'm going to mark 1 inch on my waist on each side and 1.25 on my under bust at each side, and I will come down by 1 inch and I will connect the lines. Now next thing we're going to do is mark 7 inch from your shoulder downwards. I just measured 7 inch from my shoulder downwards and I'll connect the line. What I'm trying to create here is an illusion pattern. I won't be needing the upper part of the neckline. You would understand much better later. Moving on, I am marking 1/4 inch on that 7 inch line I created, and I am taking 1/4 inch on both sides to create my dart. So now I'll connect it to that, my bust point line. So now you can guess how you want your sweetheart to be, how deep and how high you want it. Now just place your tape rule on your bust point line and decide how deep you want it to be. Now I just took 2.5 and I'm going to connect that line. Now whatever that you have placed on your pattern, you'll be adding that to your seam allowance. Now measure your darts and mark whatever you get on your bust. Now I would measure my waist. I'll measure what I have there and I will take it on my waist measurements. And I will connect that line. Now connect the line to your hip. Now what's left is to divide your armhole line by 2 and come in by 1/2 inch and connect just to make your armhole curve. Now connect your armhole to that dart. This way we are creating two parts, one for the dress and one for the illusion part. Now just cut it out like so. Now if you want to add an illusion part like a net as the upper, you would be needing the neckline part. You'll be needing this neckline part if you want to add a net illusion. But for this dress, we won't be needing that. We will only be needing the lower pattern, which is this. So now just trace around the dart and cut it out. So this is going to be your front pattern. If you need an illusion neckline, you will be adding that, but for that we'll be using just this. For the back, it's really simple, and I will be adding my zip to my fabric. Now I just took my shoulder to shoulder and 1/2 inch and mark 3 inch for the slanting and 1.25 inch downwards. Now connect the lines. Now from that line, 8.5 inch downwards for my armhole, and on there I will take my bust measurement divided by 4 and 1.5 for seam. Now I connect the lines. Now I will be taking my waist measurement, which is 17 inch from my shoulder, and on there I will take my waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1.5 for seam. Now on that line I take 9 inch downwards, which I said it's standard for getting your hip line. Now on that line I will take my hip measurement plus seam allowance. Now I will take the length of my dress plus seam allowance. Now just mark what you got as your hip measurements and connect the lines. Now I will be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mine is 8, divided by 2 is 4, and that is what I would mark, just like I did for the front, and I will just connect the lines. Now from my hip measurement I would mark 2 inches upwards, and I will take ½ inch on both sides of my waist for my dart. Now on that bust point, on your bust measurement, you can go down by 1 inch, you can go down by 2 inch, you can go down by 2.5, depending on how low you want your back to be. Once you do that, you connect the lines. Now you can connect the line on this part. That is if you want your back to be this low. Now just connect that. Now I am adding 1 inch to my waist measurement for the darts I placed. Now I am just going to connect the lines. Now just divide your armhole into 2 and start marking 7 inch from your shoulder downwards, just like you did for the front, and connect the line. Now I just took my armhole curve to the divided part of my armhole. Now I just collected my 7 inch line. That is where I want my back, how low I want my back to be. Now I take 1.5 inches downwards for the slanting of my back. So now that former line I made was for how, if you want your back to be really low, and for this one, this is how I want my back to, how low I want it. I don't want it to be really low. I want it to come up just like I did for the front. So now just make sure everything is in place and cut out. Now for that back, I forgot to do something. You are going to create a curve to your armhole line, just like you did for the front, and cut that out so it won't be that sharp. So it's going to be like this. So now just fold your fabric by 2 and place the edge of the front to the fabric and cut it out by ½ inch all around. Make sure the folded edge is at the folded edge of your fabric so as to cut out that front part. Now this is what you should get once you're done cutting out. You can see I have ½ inch all around it except for the folded edge, and this is what it should look like once you're done cutting. Now for the two sides, I fold my fabric by half and I will be adding seam to this part for joining of my dart. For the side seams, I won't be adding any seam, just like you can see, because I have already added seam on my pattern. So now for my two backs, I fold my fabric and I cut out same way. Now I am just taking 1.5 for my zip downwards. Then I place my center back right there and I would cut this part out, so I have two center backs for my zip. Now whatever I have cut on my fabric, I would go on and cut it on my lining. Now I am just cutting my loop. I am using 15 inches for the loop. And in another video, guys, I will show you how to add your fabrics together to create your dress. See you in my next video. Cheers.